The Gauteng government says socio-economic programs remain major priorities for the current government. Tabling the budget allocations yesterday, the Finance and Economic Development MEC, Lebogang Maile, believes that it will help address the challenges faced by vulnerable citizens in the province. The MEC now joins us to unpack his budget plans further. MEC, very good morning to you. Thank you so much for making time for us. So I remember the press briefing that you had with the Social Development MEC, where we spoke about the allocation of money towards NGOs and NPOs as well, and increasing that budget allocation, which left me with that question around, and I don't know how broad this has been, around having to move funds around so that you can make sure that you have money available for the most vulnerable. Speak to us about that. Which other departments have had to face budget cuts because of the plight of the poor in the province?
Morning, Aldrin. Maybe let me start by giving this context. Firstly, this budget was presented by the 6th administration, my predecessor, MEC Mamabolo, but it was not adopted formally by the legislature. So what we're doing yesterday, we were formally adopting it. And the second thing is that during this MTF, in the next 3 years, the National Treasury has actually cut budgets across all provinces and spheres because of the economic situation in the country. And as a result, we will be losing about 15 billion. But secondly, as you know, that we've got what I'll call an albatross because the public has rejected the e-tolls and the provincial government has to pay for that. That's an additional 20 billion, meaning we are about 15 billion, 15 plus 20, that's about 35 billion rand that we are minus in this term of office. So that context is important because then everyone will be able to understand the constraints that we're facing. But of course, we are putting measures in place to ensure that we recover from that, because in the last the last term, we were able to raise about 36.8 billion. So it means we've got capacity to recover. We just need to put systems in place. And to answer your question, we have actually not cut from anyone except this cut that has been imposed. We had to reprioritize within the resources that are given to all the departments, including social development, because we believe that NGOs are doing very important work in the communities. And you will remember that we started by apologizing for the inconvenience that was caused to some of them. And subsequently, the MEC, I think today, of Social Development will be having an imbizo with them to discuss the challenges that they're facing and to also discuss the funding issue, because there has to be a sustainability. And of course, in this budget, we are funding education and health are getting the largest share.
Yeah. On the e-tolls, when the announcement was made that e-tolls will now be done away with, and you had the minister as well as the premier switching off the gantries, we were told that there will be a loan that will be secured to cover the cost that motorists in Gauteng are essentially refusing to pay. Has that loan been secured as yet? What's the interest rate on it? Which is the financial service provider that is giving the province that loan?
Good question. The first thing is that there's two issues to this. There's two aspects. The first one is the maintenance of the roads, which will require about 4.1 billion. And then the second one is the actual loan, which is about 12 billion rands. So we are in the process, and we are at an advanced stage of getting money from getting money from a finance institution, and I hope by September, because the process is advanced and they're busy with the application. I think it would be premature but it's a reputable, and we will definitely make that announcement.
Okay.
And then the other loan, which is actually the refinancing of the actual loan. We are looking at reprioritizing some of the resources, and then we will then have to take a loan for what I would call strategic economic infrastructure, so that we don't take a loan to refinance a loan. I think it will not make sense. We should be able to get value for money in a long run, because we'll have to pay it. So that's what we are juggling with for now. And we're making our first repayment now in September. First payment, sorry, about 3 billion rand. So we hope that by the time we make that first payment, Aldrin, we will definitely take the society into confidence. We will make it public and explain all the terms, conditions, and reiterate what is the agreement that we have with SANRAL, the Department of Transport, and National Treasury.
So when you have to pay the 3 billion, that is paying the 3 billion while you're still finalizing your negotiations with the financial service provider?
No, at that time we think we would have finalized with the service provider. Remember, the service provider is giving us 4.1 billion for the actual maintenance, so that when you drive, you must not find potholes on those roads. Okay.
What's the interest rate on that?
Remember, once it's finalized and we sign an agreement, we will then know. At this point, we wouldn't know, because we have not yet been given authorization by that service provider.
Is it a local service provider? Is it rand denominated?
Yes, certainly. That I can confirm. It is a local. Yeah.
Okay, and MEC, with that said as well, considering some of the infrastructure challenges, and you did speak about it in your budget speech as well, is the issue around the growing population of Gauteng. We just got the new estimates from the population estimates from Stats SA, indicating once again that Gauteng remains the biggest province. I think the population now sitting at around close to 16 million. So more and more people coming to the province. How are you dealing with that particular aspect? And also, the Premier had previously mentioned that in terms of equitable share, that the province should actually be getting more, considering that it's also contributing 40% to the country's GDP and it has the biggest population.
The immigration, it's a big headache for us because people come to Gauteng looking for opportunities, people looking for work, looking for better health, better education, etc., etc. And it's not just people from other provinces; it's also people from other African continents. And as a result, it puts a huge strain on our resources. And yes, it's true, we should be getting more from the equitable share, but we should also have an appreciation that the fiscus is strained because of the current economic conditions. So it's very difficult for us. And one of the things we have to do is to make sure that for every rent we get from the fiscus, there is value for money. We must make sure that we don't underspend the resources. We must make sure that we fight corruption so that it does not redirect the resources. So at this point, we must make sure that with the limited resources that we have, we use them optimally and we we derive value and there's impact.
Yeah. Finally, the minority government's first test, of course, were these budget votes. When I spoke to the Secretary General of the ANC, he had said that he is a bit concerned that the approach that Gauteng has taken could be a bit risky, considering that you have a minority government that makes about 40%. Of the share of 40% of the seats in the provincial legislature. Are you still confident that you would be able, as the provincial government, to push ahead with a minority government, that at no stage would you need the Democratic Alliance?
Yes, we are. In fact, yesterday, I think almost all the parties in the legislature, except I think 2, voted for the budget. And they were able to say, parties like the Action SA, for instance, said to us, look, we will work with you on an issue-by-issue basis. And we have to be reasonable. And if there's issues that they are not in agreement with, we have to sit around the table and discuss. What this will do, it actually keeps us on our toes. And it means we must at all the times be reasonable, seek consensus. Because to be honest, Aldrin, all the parties that are in the legislature, including the DA, are all saying we must fight poverty, we must end unemployment, we must provide services to our people and all that. Where we differ in most cases is on the how part. And for instance, if you listen to the reasons that the DA is giving for rejecting the budget, you realize that it has nothing to do with the quality of the budget that we are presenting and how it has been structured. But it was just, I think, narrow political self-serving interests, which it's unfortunate, I think, for me, because I thought they will rise above that since at national level. That's their articulation.
From a political level, MEC, I don't know if you saw the remarks made by Helen Zille, that essentially what is happening at a national level is not a government of national unity, it is a coalition, and the president of the ANC was using the term government of national unity to sell the idea to the ANC NEC. As the ANC, how do you reflect on this particular element that has been raised by Helen Zille?
Yeah, well, I'm not the spokesperson of the ANC, but what I know for sure is that the ANC NEC adopted a framework. And in that framework, at least there's 2 important elements. And one of them is that a party with the most votes must be the one that initiates the process of leading a government. But secondly, is that we should work with everyone and we should bring as many people as possible. So that's the ANC position. That's the framework which, and the views of Mrs. Helen Zille, I think I have views. I don't know what is their conception as the DA, and when they have their own discussions and positions, they reflect on these issues, and I think she's better placed to articulate that position. And I think the SG of the ANC was able to clarify some of these issues yesterday.
Thank you so much for your time. That is Lebogang Maile, who is the MEC for Economic Development in Gauteng.